Okay, our next lesson is we are going to solve by factoring, and this time we're going to have a lead coefficient that is different than 1. In the last one, we solved by factoring, but the lead coefficient was always 1. So, solving by factoring, we're going to look at this first example, and we're going to recognize that it is a binomial, so there are just two terms. So we're first going to look at if there is a common factor. The common factor in this is x, so we're going to factor out an x, and we're going to be left with a binomial of 7x minus 6, and they equal 0. And what we're going to do from there is use our zero product property and set up our two equations. So x equals 0. That one's actually already solved, so the parabola will go through where x equals 0 at the origin. And then the second equation is 7x minus 6 equals 0. And we're going to solve this equation. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. They cancel, and you get 7x equals 6. Then we're going to divide by 7. And you get x equals 6 over 7. So that would be the other location where the parabola is going to cross the x-axis. So as we did in the past, we're going to take our little squigglies, and we're going to say 0 and 6 over 7 are the two solutions for that polynomial. Polynomial. Let's look at the second example. It looks a little bit different than the first example in that it has a trinomial. So when you're doing or factoring a trinomial, what you need to do is you need to multiply the a value with the c value. So 3 times 7 is 21. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to set up our magic x. We're going to add our snowflake in. And the snowflake in this case is going to have, instead of a p, we're going to put a 3p on both sides. The 21 goes up top, and the negative 10 goes down below. Now we need to figure out our factors of 21 that add to a negative 10. So we would have 1 times 21, 3 times 7, and that's all of our factors of 21 right there. So we notice that 3 and 7, when you make them negative, would multiply together to equal 21 and add together to equal negative 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back over and put them into our binomials to equal 0. Draw a little space here so you can see it. Now these have a common factor of 3. Before I put it in here, I'm going to factor that out as well. So this one, instead of 3p minus 3, would be p minus 1, because we're going to imaginarily factor out a 3 there. And then we would have 3p minus 7. Setting up our equations, p minus 1 equals 0, 3p minus 7 equals 0. And then I'm going to solve those a little bit quicker this time, because your time is valuable. You would get p equals 1. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. You would get 3p equals 7. Divide by 3. P equals 7 over 3 would be the second solution. So again, squiggly lines, 1, comma, 7 over 3, another comma, would be our solution. You know what, I'm getting a little bit confused here. I'm going to put a little highlighter around those. The third one, similar, but a little bit different than this example. Okay, now we have a trinomial over on the left side, but we don't have 0 there, and we need to make sure that we get a 0 there. So we're going to add 7 to both sides, and then they cancel out. I actually cancel out in both spots. So 2n squared plus 3n equals 0. We're back to our first example where we had a binomial. So I'm going to factor out my n because that's the common factor. And you get 2n plus 3 equals 0. And I'm going to solve it like I would the first example. N equals 0. It's already solved. And then 2n plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3 from both sides. 2n equals -3. Divide by 2, I'm running out of room. N equals -3 over 2. Squiggly lines. 0, -3 over 2 would be the solutions there. The last example that I'm going to do is the one that incorporates everything. And I'm going to go kind of quickly through this because you've done it in the first 3 examples. First step, we have to subtract 2 to get it equal to 0. 5v squared plus 24v minus 5 equals 0. And then I'm going to multiply my a times my c and get a -25. 5 times a -5 is -25. Set up my snowflake. 5v, 5v. We have a -25 up top and a +24 down below. My factors of 25 are 1 times 25 and 5 times 5. So I would know that I would need a +25 and a -1. So here are my binomials. Put them back in. Again, I can factor a 5 out of here. So v plus 5 is the first binomial times 5v minus 1 is the second equals 0. And then we are going to set up our equations. V plus 5 equals 0 and 5v minus 1 equals 0. Subtract 5, v equals a -5. Over here, we're going to add 1 and add 1. 5v equals 1. Divide by 5. V equals 1/5. Slide it up. So our solutions here would be different color, -5, 1/5. What I would like you to do is I would like you to do the even problems, 2, 4, 6, and 8 that we just went over, and see if you get the correct answers. Feel free to look back at this video if you are a little bit confused. The third and fourth example are pretty intense, so I would watch it again, and if you have questions, please ask your teacher. Have a great day.